too. I was almost sort of thinking, because Bevan French is, surely. So Wigan have got the best defensive and the best attacking, but maybe not the best all round, because that's probably Sam Tompkins or Lachlan Coote. We're blessed for Super League fullbacks.
It would appear so. Pablo Barkin says, good game to watch. Could have gone either way. Connor needs to calm himself down, as he's a great player, but he cost Hull this game.
Matt Speakman said, in Lamb's first 18 months, we'd have lost that game. Great. Maybe first 6 months, I agree, yeah. Great performance in some tough circumstances. I can't wait to have our backline playing again. Hastings once again the difference. He needs to be replaced well at the end of the season. Someone experienced to partner Smith and run it. A quick look on Super League Facebook makes me feel better about our fan base when I see some of the comments from the Hull fans. I think just avoid fan base comments on Facebook from any fan base. Don't point fingers, just avoid them all.
That's generally very good advice. Always in Our Shadow says, Wigan the better team in a dour encounter, but again, so many ref issues. Late challenge shoulder to back has been a yellow all season. Why not this time? Offside near the try line, so blatant that Barry Mack could spot it with his bad eye. Totally overlooked by Childs.
The late challenge is the Ethan Havard one, isn't it? So that's the one that he'll have got his caution for. If you heard the ref's mic at the time, I'm pretty sure Charles said it wasn't late, but it was a shoulder charge. So that will be why it was deemed that a penalty was sufficient punishment, and it seems the match review panel will have had more time to assess the timings of everything and the nature and the point of the impact. Have obviously come to the same conclusion, and I actually, and always in Our Shadow will say this because I'm a Wigan. This is because I'm a Wigan fan, but I think James Child refereed this game pretty well. He basically stopped the copious amounts of 6 against he could have given against Hull FC in the last 20 minutes, as well as the penalty for offside, and probably other penalties I'm sure he could have given against Wigan and Hull. And he let the players go at that stage after having controlled the players after some serious flashpoints in the game. So I actually think James Child helped make this game the entertaining encounter I thought it was. I didn't think it was dour. I thought it was, an exciting match with a bit of controversy. Some of it definitely unwanted, but some of it kind of what you want from a clash between two strong sides who both played tough. I obviously took maybe my side winning meant I took a totally different perspective away, Alan. I don't know what you think.
Well, that's the joy of differing points of view by fans, isn't it? I mean, from my point of view, I thought it had its advantages and its poor moments in this game. But yeah, for me, just talking about refereeing. For me, the referee didn't influence his game negatively in any sense. What did Jen have to say?
Said, really good, fast-paced game. Hull look like a different side completely this year. Farrell and Hastings combine well for us again. We seem to have a good flow in attack for the first time in years. I feel nervous about us starting the season so well. The last time it happened was 2017, and we all know how that turned out.
Craig Malson says, in my humble opinion, Connor is a complete tool in need of a severe attitude transplant. Looks likely to hiccup every time he gets tackled. There are enough ways to lose to a class team like Wigan without your so-called best player and talisman losing it to them on a petulant plate. This was a bruising game sprinkled with lots of classy bits. Hull were right in it until Connor intervened.
Tom Andrews said, imagine costing your team the game and giggling about it. What a day for Sam Tompkins. I think I tweeted afterwards, actually, the big winner, I thought, from this game was Sam Tompkins, because Hardacre made a lot of meters, but I don't think he was in it in attack for Wigan in this game at the right end of the field to influence the scoreboard. And Connor certainly made sure he was off the pitch at plenty of times when he could have influenced the game positively.
Joshua's granddad says, Wigan just edged this game, excellently refereed by Messrs Bateman and Hardacre. No comment on Ku Klux Club. Yeah, fair enough.
Sarah said, I think a 2-point loss was probably a fair result. To be honest, losing Tag so early on was a massive loss, but on the whole, we stood up well. Bring on next week. Yeah, Sarah touching on the Taylor thing there as well, which I think was important. But most people, Alan, have touched on the Connor thing, and really, the main differences between the sides, I think, were the performances of Hastings and Farrell for Wigan, and the petulance and stupidity of Connor. I mean, all that build-up, and he took into it that I'll swing an arm directly into his head. It had to be a yellow card for that challenge. I don't think he was setting out to hit him in the head. He was just setting out to hit him hard as much as he could, but he got it wrong. Hardacre was stupid because he nearly got himself more involved there than he needed to, and actually the footage being so clear that it was a swinging arm to the head, meaning it had to be a yellow, kind of got Connor out of the way so Hardacre could get on with the game. And then the penalty he gave away, James Child did everything he could in that instance to let the game just play on, because both teams were being a little unnecessarily niggly in that spell.
Yeah, I would agree.
But very much 50-50, and it was almost like, look, if you want to ruin it for yourself, ruin it for yourselves. But he couldn't then do anything differently when Connor then puts his hand out and hits him. It's just, like, after all that shenanigans, he just couldn't help himself. He couldn't even wait till the ball was played and then done it, and then he probably wouldn't have been penalised.
Yeah, it did feel like the game the occasion of the game got on top of him a little bit, and I think he just got a bit excited. He's always had this in his game. We all know that. I think he'd been doing a remarkably good job of curtailing that recently, but we all know that fairly. I mean, he's been playing very well in that kind of excellent form. He's been their most incisive attacking threat, hasn't he?
Oh yeah.
So
worked well in the early rounds with Reynolds when he was fit as well, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think it was. Yeah, he was a bit of old jet coming out, unfortunately, and it did cost them, because FC were right in this one. I think they were doing tactically, they were doing a lot of good work to slow you down at the play of the ball, and you were saying that
tackle one.
Yeah, well, you were saying, about set restarts and them kind of slightly disappearing later on. It felt to me like FC didn't mind a set restart, because they were. It did feel like that was a tactic from my point of view.
Well, we've seen it creeping in the NRL, haven't we? A set restart on a tackle one, either from a scrum base or from a kick downfield where your forwards are not quite lined up yet, and they seem to do that. So Hodgson's brought that over to them, but it brought a lot of good stuff over for their defence. This is maybe the thing that he's brought over that, as a purist, you might not enjoy, but they're a stronger, more resilient side than they were last year by a mile.
Oh, yeah. And I think people are right to completely pull up the Scott Taylor thing. I think Saturday, when he came on for his second spell, did a good job, but he's not Scott Taylor, and we've talked about this so many times, haven't we? In-game injuries are just an absolute killer. And the other TV game was exactly the same, wasn't it? And
I think if he'd have been able to play on in the game, come back on later on in the game, would Wigan's of young players off the bench looked as good? I mean, because Havard and Shorrocks were really strong again in this game. And so I think Shorrocks in particular has really impressed me this season, and they were talking about in the Sky Studio, Wigan just seem to keep bringing in these players, and there's not really a drop-off when they're putting these young players in and giving them a go, which is impressive, you have to say, for the sake of Wigan's goal line defence. Although I have to give big credit to Hull's goal line defence. Wigan should have won this game maybe by a bit more, in fact, because they bombed a couple of chances. There was Harry Smith went for the corner and threw it back inside for Bateman, and in the pass was cut out by good defence from Sneed, I think it was. And Hardacre, right before half-time, had a chance to probably do something more like what Danny Richardson did in the other TV game and maybe kick it across field and try and find some space there. But ended up down a bit of a blind alley. And then there was Harry Smith's chance off the Shorrock's offload right by the sticks, and it was Jordan Lane, I think, who came in late from nowhere almost and kind of tackled Harry Smith into the post, so Harry Smith agonizingly couldn't reach around the post padding to get the ball down. I thought that was a fantastic tackle, and maybe the best part of playing the game, because both sides had something good to look at there.
Yeah, it felt like it was a very, very competitive match. Not quite playoff intensity, but FC are definitely looking better than they were last year.
Bounce the ball wise as well. If Griffin had been able to take that ball cleanly right at the start of the second half, when I don't know what Wigan were doing, and I think it was Hardacre again who threw the pass that went to no one. Then that was a dicey moment for me. But I think those instances showed that this game was close and like you say, Hull are competitive.
Yeah, it's I think it was Hull should take heart from me, because at the end of the day, you were basically a couple of gobby moments kind of away from winning this one, to be honest. So.
Yeah, and Snead had a couple of good try involvements, didn't he? The kick for Fanua over the top of French, that'll be something they'll look to repeat next week, I'm sure.
The last note I've got about this one was, yes, I know he's your favourite and everything, and you are incredibly biased.
There's good fucking reason why.
Genuinely, and I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your ass, the guy is doing an unbelievably good job at centre. Unbelievable. I actually thought Carlos played him very well. He actually did a good job of shutting him down. But even so, he still had an influence on the game. So yeah, Farrell was excellent in this game, as he has been all year, frankly.
And just think how much better it's going to be for Wigan's attack when strike weapon Farrell's back in his best position and NRL-bound Oliver Gildart comes into the centres.
Yeah, other teams have got to be worried about that.
And Hastings, man of the match, I think, fair shout.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to some games we don't know as much about than that very controversial and very fan-reviewed game.
Yeah, indeed. So on first game on Friday, it was... Well, first thing first, it was a hell of a lot closer than most people said. It finished Leigh 12, St Helens 22. It was 6 apiece at half-time, and Marcus Griffiths was the man with the whistle. So this game had the most errors, which was 39, and the most penalties, 19, of any game so far this year. It was the side on top who had the worst of it too. 5 more errors and 3 more penalties conceded, although they did make 300 more metres and were back to keeping their opponents below 1,000 metres with a 2.1 metre per carry better average gain, keeping Leigh to below 6 metres per carry, despite one intercept carrying and getting them about 90 metres. For St Helens, Sion and Mitautia with a try, 5 tackle busts and 133 metres. Regan Grace with 6 tackle busts, 125 metres and 2 clean breaks. Johnny Lomax, 2 try assists, 6 tackle busts, 118 metres. James Roby with 43 tackles, 11 from mark and 0 misses. For Leigh, Anthony Gelling with a try, which was the breakaway, and 211 metres, which was also mainly the breakaway. So fan views on this one, just a couple. Harry says, huge improvement from Leigh on previous games. The team is starting to gel and work together. New Saints will be a hard match and the champions showed their class to win, but I'm a happy Lather tonight. So
good to hear from Carrie. Finally, a Leigh fan getting a fan viewing this year. That's great to hear. What I'd like to hear from Carrie is what they think about the kind of absolute messing up of the pivot positions constantly, week after week after week at Leigh. And is that the main problem, or is it a quality of squad that's the main problem? Are kind of the questions I'd be wondering about from a Leeds fan perspective. St David, from the Saints fan perspective, said, well, that wasn't very good. Defence fine, but Lomax aside, the attack was horribly disjointed. Bentley now out, and Matautia may get a ban, so next... Well, there was no disciplinary out of this one. So next week's cup game could be a challenge.